Southern Illinois, where most of my maternal family is from, there is a food and social event called chowder. It takes place in most of the small farming communities throughout that region of Southern Illinois, near Missouri and Kentucky. Chowder is really hard to describe. It's got chicken and tomatoes, a lot of vegetables. It's almost like everything that you harvest thrown into a pot and cooked for an exceedingly long time and stirred for an exceedingly long time until everything breaks up. The closest I've ever come is something called Kentucky burgoo, or burgaloo, which is essentially the same kind of collection of ingredients, and then you immersion blend it so that it becomes just this wonderful symphony of flavors. I'm not making chowder yet. My family is actually gathering at near my grandfather's in Ohio this weekend, and we are going to make chowder like we used to when we still lived in Illinois. One of the ingredients on the list of things required by a chowder is 5 fat hens. Well, guess who just raised a whole bunch of chickens on their pasture? I'm taking all the chicken. Whether or not they're hens is well, I don't know. I can't really tell anymore. But part of the process to help make things speed along is to pre-cook the chicken and to debone it so that you don't have to do that. If that's how the recipe goes. You pre-cook the chicken, you debone it so you don't have bones of chicken in your chowder. Which is a very roundabout way of saying that I've been boiling chicken nonstop for 3 or 4 days. And the reason it's taking so long is I'm taking each one of them and turning them into a really nice hearty stock that I can use later. If I'm gonna boil chickens, I'm gonna get something out of it too. So I'm going to show you how I make chicken stock. I'm starting with a just over 3.5 pound chicken. This one is one of our Red Rangers. We've been really pleased with these. These are probably one of the chickens we're gonna raise again next year. The Cornish crosses weren't bad, but I really did prefer the Red Rangers, just from a flavor standpoint and from a personal standpoint. So we're gonna cut our carrot ends off. Oops. And you're just gonna rough cut your carrots. And throw them in the pot with your chicken. Same with your celery. I actually use the white parts of my celery too. some sea salt. And some pepper. So honestly, baked, this would probably be a pretty good meal. I'm going to fill the Dutch oven up with water until it's about 1.5 inches from the rim. This is filtered water from my well. And then I'm going to put it on the stove and bring it to a boil. Cover that, turn it on high. Oh, wrong one. Turn it on high. Once it comes to a boil, we'll turn it down and let it simmer. The idea is to let the chicken cook. It creates a poached chicken that kind of falls off the bones. That's step one. We'll come back when the chicken is cooked. It takes about 2.5 hours, depending on the size of the chicken. Just keep an eye on it. So what I'm about to show you is a little awkward to watch. That's basically me trying to leverage a 3.5-pound chicken out of a Dutch oven with a pair of tongs, well, 2 pairs of tongs, while trying not to burn myself and put it on this cookie sheet. I use this cookie sheet to debone my chicken that I'm going to use to make stock with. So once the chicken is poached, I put it on the cookie sheet, debone it on the cookie sheet, and then I can take the whole cookie sheet back over with all the bones back over to the stock pot. The reason I like the cookie sheet is it has this lip which catches, it's a drip pan basically. Alright, I don't go in one big go because that would just be terrifying and heavy. I usually take it off in chunks, and if you notice, it's falling apart, which is what we want. And now we just kind of try to hoist this up like that and not make a humongous mess. We're just gonna leave the pot simmering while I do the deboning process. If you don't have a massive communal, familial soup making endeavor where you have to boil 5 chickens in order to make a giant pot of soup, you could still do this and get something very usable out of it. The meat that comes off of one of these poached chickens is very tender. It would work really well with pasta. It would make an amazing chicken salad for like chicken salad sandwiches. It would be awesome in a chicken soup. It would be awesome in a chicken pot pie. You know, anything where you would use like a rotisserie chicken. That's what you could use this in. If it's a little too soft for you, then you can roast it for a little while in like a baking pan, and it will perk up a little bit as far as texture goes. Because you have boiled this with seasonings and things like that. I'm gonna use tongs because this is really hot. Because you've boiled it with seasonings, it's not an unflavorful chicken. It, like just regular poached chicken is kind of boring and bland. This is not that. God, look at that dark meat. That is amazing. I'm really pleased with these chickens. I think that they're some of the best chicken I've ever eaten. I've eaten a lot of chicken. I usually do not strip the meat off the wings. There's just not enough there to really warrant the time it would take to do it. Maybe the little drumlet wings, but not the flappers. And I'm saving all the skin. So the meat goes into my little container that I have here. I'm saving though all the bones, the skin, the carcass. It's all going into a pile. And it just, look at how this just falls right off the bone. I should have done this for Halloween. This should have been my Halloween video. It's kind of gruesome. If you're not like me, who seems to be kind of impervious to temperature, I've never been able to explain it. Not impervious, but you know, I can handle hot stuff better than a lot of people. You can let this cool down before you do this. I just find it's really easier to do when it's hot because it just, everything, the bone structure of the chicken is kind of broken down and everything just kind of just collapses. That's actually getting kind of down to a temperature where it's not entirely unbearable to work with. So kind of pick through and grab any little pieces of meat. That goes in my little bucket here. And we're going back to the pot. Okay, so I'm back at the Dutch oven, which is still cooking away, and I'm about to put all of those remains, the bones, the skin, anything, the little joints, anything that isn't really edible, we're gonna put it back in the pot. Oh, and then this is the other reason I do it on the cookie sheet. If you notice all the juice, I can pour it right back into the stock pot where it goes. So all of this gross stuff, and a few little bits of meat, but you know, keep it as four. All this goes back in the stock pot. And it is currently on very low, like, it's currently at a number 2, which is kind of a low to medium heat. I'm gonna let it pick back up to a boil. Push this little bone back in there, give it a good stir with my tongs. I'm going to let it come back up to a boil, which it's already kind of getting that direction. And then I'm gonna turn it down all the way to low. So it just basically simmers. And then once it's, you know, then I'm just gonna leave it there. I'm gonna let it sit there until tomorrow. About noonish to 1 o'clock-ish, 24 hours after I started, that's when I feel like my stock is really at its best. By keeping it at low, not as much of it will reduce away. And if it does, I just add a little more water because it's so concentrated that it doesn't really matter. The stock that I get is really, it's really rich compared to the stock that I buy at the grocery store. I was kind of showing Everett what I was doing and he was like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, well, I use a lot of chicken broth and chicken stock. He's like, oh, and if you do this, you don't have to do, like, buy this at the store anymore. And I'm like, bingo, buddy. And it's going to be a better product than what the store is providing me with. And we know what goes in it. So we're gonna put that lid back on there, let it cook, and we'll catch up with it tomorrow. It's day number 2 of the stock making process. I have turned off the stock and let it kind of cool a little bit so that it's not quite so molten when I go to dump it in. It's been simmering for about 24 hours and now I'm going to strain it and put it into bags. I do this by putting a colander over a mixing bowl and you gently, slowly pour your stock into the colander. And that's what remains. The next step, of course, is to bag it up. I usually put it in quart size, well, not quart-sized bags, but I put it in quart-sized portions within a gallon-sized bag. In a pinch, I will put it in a quart-sized bag because it just works out better. Quart is the standard, like Tetra Pak of broth when you buy it in the grocery store. So most recipes call for about a quart, which of course is 4 cups. And you are going to make a little mess. Unless you're perfect, which I'm not. But putting it in the little bowl to hold it while you pour it helps. And then you have a bag of broth. I'm going to continue bagging this stuff up, and I'm gonna run it down and put it in my deep freeze. The stock you make yourself is going to be all around a better product than the stuff you can buy at the store. It's going to be richer. It's going to have a little more complexity to it. There's a lot of variation you can put into it, but this is a very simple, easy way to stretch things a little further. So I highly recommend trying it. It makes your house smell amazing. I know I've said that, but I can't repeat it enough. Especially on a cold day like what we're having today. So thanks for stopping by, and until next time, you guys take care of yourselves.